Richard Dawkins, The Blind Watchmaker. Why the evidence of evolution reveals a universe without design. Chapter 6, Origin and Miracle. Chance, luck, coincidence, miracle. One of the main topics of this chapter is miracle, and what we mean by them. My gist will be that events that we commonly call miracle are not supernatural, but are part of a spectrum of more or less improbable natural events. A miracle, in other words, if it occurs at all, is a tremendous stroke of luck. Events don't fall literally into natural events versus miracle. There are some would-be events that are too improbable to be contemplated, but we can't know this until we have done a calculation. And to do the calculation, we must know how much time was available, more generally, how many opportunities were available for the given event to occur. Given infinite time or infinite opportunity, anything is possible. The large numbers proverbially punched by astronomy and the large time spans characteristic of geology combine to turn topsy-turvy our everyday estimate of what's expected and what's miraculous. I say built up to this point using a specific example of which is the other main themes of this chapter. This example is the problem of how life originates on Earth. To make the point clearly, I shall virtually concentrate on one particular theory of the origin of life, although any one of the modern theories would have served the purpose. We can accept a certain amount of luck in our explanation, but not too much. The question is how much. The immensity of geological time entitled us to postulate more improbable coincidence than a court of law would allow, but even so, there are limits. Cumulative selection is the key to all our modern explanation of life. It strings a series of acceptably lucky events, random mutation, together in a non-random sequence so that at the end of the sequence, the finished product carries the illusion of being very, very lucky indeed, far too improbable to have come about by chance alone, even given a time span millions of times longer than the age of the universe so far. Cumulative selective is the key, but it has to get started, and we cannot escape the need to postulate a single-step chance event in the origin of cumulative selection itself. And the vital first step was a difficult one because at its heart there lies what seemed to be paradox. The replication process that we know seems to need complicated machinery to work. In the presence of a replicase machine tool, fragment of RNA will evolve repeatedly and convergently toward the same endpoint, endpoint whose probability seemed vanishingly small until you reflect on the power of cumulative selection. But we have to assist this cumulative selection to get started. It won't go unless we provide a catalyst, such as the replicase machine tool of the previous chapter. And the catalyst, it seems, is unlikely to come into existence spontaneously except under the direction of other RNA molecules. DNA molecules replicate in the complicated machinery of the cell, and written word replicate in Xerox machines. but neither theme capable of spontaneous replication of the absence of their supporting machines. A Xerox machine is capable of copying its own blueprint, but it's not capable of springing spontaneously into existence. Biomorphy readily replicate in the environment provided by a suitably written computer program, but they can't written their own program or build a computer to learn it. The theory of the blind watchmaker is extremely powerful given that we are allowed to assume replication and hence cumulative selection. But if replication needs complex machinery, since the only way we know for complex machinery ultimately to come into existence is cumulative selection, you have a problem. Certainly, the modern cellular machinery, the apparatus of DNA replication and protein synthesis, has all the hallmarks of the highly involved, specially fashioned machine. We have seen how staggeringly impressive it is as an acceptable data, accurate data storage device, and its own level of ultra miniaturization. It's of the same order of elaborateness and complexity of design as the human eye is at a grosser level. All who have given thought to the matter agree that the apparatus as uncomplex as human eye could not possibly come into existence through single-step selection. Unfortunately, the same seems to be true of at least part of the apparatus of cellular machinery whereby DNA replicates itself, and this applies not just to the cell of the advanced creature like ourselves and amoebas, but also relatively more primitive creatures like bacteria and blue-green algae. So, cumulative selection can manufacture complexity, while single-step selection cannot. But cumulative selection cannot work unless there is some minimal machinery of replication and replicator power, and the only machinery of replication that we know seem to complicate to have come to existence by means of anything less than main generation of cumulative selection. Some people see this as a fundamental flaw in the whole theory of the blind watchmaker. They see it as the ultimate proof there must originally have been a designer, not a blind watchmaker, but a far-sighted supernatural watchmaker. Maybe, it's argued, the creator does not control the day-to-day succession of evolutionary events. Maybe he did not frame the tiger and the lamb. Maybe he did not make a tree, but he did set up the original machinery of replication and replicator power, the original machinery of DNA and protein that made cumulative selection, and hence all of evolution possible. This is a transparently feeble argument. Indeed, it's obviously self-defeating. Organized complexity is the thing that we are having difficulty in explaining. Once you are allowed simply to postulate organized complexity, if only the organized complexity of the DNA protein replicating engine, it's relatively easy to invoke it as a generator of yet more organized complexity. That, indeed, is what most of this book is about. But, of course, any God capable of intelligently designing something as complex as DNA protein replicating machine must have been at least as complex as organized as the machine itself. Far more so if we suppose him additionally capable of such advanced function as listening to prayers and forgiving sins. To explain the origin of the DNA protein machine by invoking a supernatural designer is to explain precisely nothing, for it leaves unexplained the origin of the designer. You have to say something like God was always there, and if you allow yourself that kind of lazy way out, you might as well just say DNA was always there, or life was always there, and be done with it.